Hello everyone, today let's learn part 2, Equipment and Tools for Shielded Metal Arc Welding. In this session, we will achieve the following teaching objective along with the composition and function of the shielded metal arc welding equipment, as well as the common tools and their uses in shielded metal arc welding. Are the key points of the session. First of all, let's take a look at the main equipment for shielded metal arc welding. The equipment for shielded metal arc welding is mainly composed of welding power source, welding tongs, welding cables, ground wire clamps, etc., among which the welding power source is the core equipment of shielded metal arc welding. Let's learn the relevant knowledge of welding power supply first. The so-called welding power source refers to electric welding machine. Its function is to provide the required and suitable current and voltage for the stable combustion of the welding arc. The welding power source of shielded metal arc welding is divided into 3 categories: AC welding machine, DC arc welding generator, and DC arc welding rectifier. According to the provisions of China National Standard GB/T 10249-2010 welding machine model complication method, the welding machine model is written in Chinese pinyin characters and Arabic figures. The first item is the class name. Specifically, capital B stands for arc welding transformer, Z for arc welding rectifier, and A for arc welding generator. The second item is the subclass name. Specifically, the uppercase letter X indicates that the power supply has a drop characteristics. P means that the power supply has a flat characteristic, and D refers to the power supply has multiple characteristics. The third item is a note feature. For example, the uppercase letter E means AC and DC power supply. The fourth item is the serial number. For example, in arc welding transformers, I means moving iron series and 3 moving core series. The fifth item is the basic specification and specifies the rated welding current of the welding machine. For example, ZX7-400 welding machine has only item 1, 2, 4, and 5, which represent the inverted arc welding rectifier with following characteristics, and its rated output welding current is 400 amps. In recent years, due to the advantages of high efficiency, material saving, energy saving, and excellent performance, the inverter's power supply has gradually replaced other types of power supplies and has been widely used. Now, we will take the inverter power supply as an example to introduce the panel of the welding power supply. During welding, through the knob on the panel of the welding power source, the welding current, arc ignition current, thrust current, and other process parameters can be adjusted to meet the requirements of the welding process. Second, let's learn another important component in shielded metal arc welding, that is, the welding tongs. Its functions is to hold the electrodes and conduct the welding current from the welding cable to the electrodes, which is convenient for the welder to manipulate the electrode. Therefore, the welding tongs should have good electrical conductivity, low temperature rise of the handle, reliable insulation, lightweight, firm holding of the electrode, and easy replacement of the electrode. Third, let's take a look at the welding cable, which is the key component that transmits welding current from the welding power source to the welding tong and weldments. The welding cable should not only be sufficient conductive cross-section and be insulated with a rubber sleeve, but also should have good flexibility, be easy to bend, and facilitate welding operations. Welding cables are usually made by twisting multiple strands of fine copper wire. Fourth, let's get to know the ground wire clamp, which is installed at the terminal of the ground wire. Its function is to ensure reliable contact between the ground wire and the weldment. For the DC welding power source, the power source has polarity requirements which are divided into DC positive connection and DC reverse connection. When the workpiece is connected to the positive pole, it is DC positive connection, and when the workpiece is connected to the negative pole, it is DC reverse connection. We have learned the main equipment of shielded metal arc welding above. So, how do they form a whole to realize welding? The first is to connect the welding machine to the power grid, then connect the welding cable to the welding machine. At present, the quick plug connector is generally used. When connecting, the connector must be reliable and there can be no virtual connection. Then install the welding tongue and the ground wire clamps, and make sure that the cable ends of the welding tongue and the ground wire clamps are in good contact when wiring. Finally, debug and use. First, turn on the power supply. Observe whether there is any abnormal noise in the welding machine. Then adjust the current to test welding. Observe whether there is any abnormal smell, smoke, etc. If there is no abnormal situation, we can use it normally. So, in the welding process of shielded metal arc welding, in addition to the welding equipment just mentioned, what other tools are used? The most important thing is the protective mask. The mask is not only a protective tool, but also an essential operating tool for welding. Through the goggles on the mask, the welder can observe the molten pool, thus effectively controlling his operation. At the same time, the goggle can filter infrared and ultraviolet rays to protect welder's eyes. According to the brightness of the goggle, it can divide it into 7 to 12, a total of 6 models. The higher the number, the darker the brightness, and vice versa. The lighter the brightness, the welder can choose the appropriate model according to his vision. In the case that does not irritate the eyes under the premise, ensure that the welding pool can be clearly observed. In addition to the protective mask, we also need to use another auxiliary tools in actual welding process, such as wire brush. It is mainly used for pre-welding treatment and slag removal during welding. The second is the slag hammer. It is mainly used to remove the slag shell on the surface of the weld. It is worth noting that when knocking slag, be sure to wait for the welding slag to cool before proceeding to avoid burns. If it is really necessary to remove the slag shell immediately after welding, the weld must be reliably isolated before the slag can be knocked out to ensure safety. The third is the electrode installation barrel. It is mainly used for on-site storage of the dried electrode, and it can be taken as needed to avoid the moisture regain of the electrode and affect the welding quality. The fourth is the angle grinder. It is mainly used for the secondary processing of the groove before welding, such as rust removal, grinding, blunt edge treatment, etc. Of course, in addition to these commonly used tools, other tools are sometimes used, such as files, chisel, and hammers, etc. That's all. Thank you.